Hey, how's it going, guys? It's your boy Sperato. Ever since Blazing Vortex dropped, it's been my personal goal to make Armed Dragon Thunders a competitive rogue deck, and I personally think I've done it with this build in particular. This build that I'm about to show you is an Armed Dragon Kaiju hybrid, and it's better than anything I've ever posted on the channel. The synergies with the deck is that Armed Dragons would love to go second. They just set up way too much to break boards. So you have the Kaijus to just completely decimate the board on their own, and then the armed dragons kind of do the rest of the work. And on top of that, the Kaijus also provide you with like level 10 and level 7 bodies on your side of the field, allowing you to go into some really cheeky rank 10, rank 7 XYZ plays. And if you miss the OTK, which honestly it's really easy with this deck, but maybe use something like Prosperity, for example, you can easily make some very good follow-up interruptions like Armed Dragon Thunder level 10, Hieratic Seals, Zeus even. You're going to see it all in this card for card, but this deck is insane. Now, is this meta? Is this tier 1 or anything? Absolutely not. There are much better decks you can play than this, but this is definitely good enough to easily take a local, and it's also good enough to potentially surprise people at bigger events like a YCS, because one, people don't know what your cards do, and secondly, the synergy between the Armed Dragons and Kaijus is just really, really strong, and I think Blinding Second is a really strong option in general. That being said, this deck isn't for everybody. If you're interested in a fun rogue deck to play, or you're trying to make Armed Dragons as competitive as possible, you're in the right place. To start things off, we have 3 copies of Armed Dragon Thunder level 3. He's a starter, so you want to max out on him. We also run 3 copies of Armed Dragon Thunder level 5, and then we have 3 copies of Armed Dragon Thunder level 7. And you want to run 3 copies of each of these guys because of the way the mechanic works. So basically, when they're on the field, you have to send a card from your hand to the graveyard, specifically a monster, and then it'll send itself to the graveyard, and then you'll special summon the next level of Armed Dragon. How do you keep your hand replenished? Well, if you send any of these guys to the graveyard when you do that, they'll search for a new card. Level 3 will draw you a card. Level 5 will search for a level 5 or higher Wind Dragon monster, including cards outside of the archetype. And level 7 will search for any Armed Dragon card in your deck. So this is very necessary to run 3 copies of all these in any build that you do. We play 1 copy of Armed Dragon Thunder level 10. This is our main boss monster of the deck. This guy is amazing. You naturally get into him by leveling up your Armed Dragons. Eventually they'll get to this guy, and then you can't level up anymore. He doesn't do anything in the hand though, so you don't want to run any more than 1 copy of him. Plus you can recycle him from the grave super easily. His effects are based on his attack. At 10 or more attack, you cannot change possession of the card, so Cyber Angel Natasha can't steal it, Crackdown can't steal it, Cyber Dragon Infinity can't steal it, Widow Anchor can't steal it. There's tons of cards. That new Utopia card can't steal it. Lots of different cards cannot steal this card, and I feel like there's a lot of stealing cards in this meta right now, surprisingly. At 100 or more attack, you can't be destroyed by battle. Of course, this is decent for stalling, but the main thing here is that you can just like crash into a Dragoon or something because you have 3000 attack, and even if it has a negate and 1000 attack boost, you can actually just increase this card's attack by 1000 with a certain spell card and then just crash over the Dragoon with a negate. So this is also really good removal, not just armor. At 1000 or more attack, he has a quick effect to send a card from the hand to the grave during the opponent's turn only, to target another card on the field and destroy it, gain 1000 attack when you do. This is a fantastic interruption, preventing things from getting into like big untargetable monsters. The thing is though, is that because you can't destroy big untargetable indestructible monsters, you're going to have to know your opponent's choke points. But that's not really a huge deal because we're going second deck. We're going to break the board, naturally get into level 10. If we don't get the OTK, we're going to have that nice follow-up interruption when they only have like 2 or 3 cards in their hand and nothing on the field. When you send a card from hand to grave, make sure you're sending an Armed Dragon to grave, because that'll trigger the Armed Dragon's effect to search you for a follow-up play. And the 1000 attack is just the cherry on the top. And then lastly, he has this weird 10,000 attack effect. It'll never happen because he only starts at 3000. But you get to destroy all their cards in the field. Just remember that he has it if for some miracle reason that you do get to that point. We play 1 copy of Armed Dragon level 10 white. This is the other boss monster in the deck. You special summon him by banishing Armed Dragons from the field and or graveyard, whose combined level equals 10. And then when you summon, you get to search White Veil. I don't play White Veil. The card is really bad, and I don't want to brick because I want this deck to be as consistent as possible. And then at the start of the damage step, when he battles, you get the Pop a Guard non-targeting. He's also just a level 10 dragon monster, which means Xyz plays, Dragon Link plays, tons of different things that you can do with this card. Also, you don't take burn damage while he's on the field, so if you're playing against some kind of like troll burn deck, you can just sit on him and your opponent's just gonna cry and lose the duel that way. We play 3 copies of the best normal summon in the deck, hands down, Artillery Catapult Turtle. This guy is insane. Not only does he just summon a level 5 dragon from deck by tributing himself, but he also lets you play through hand traps. Because he tributes for cost, you can punish your opponent for hand trapping you with a Cyframe Gear Gamma. Because the armed dragons are hard once per turns, you can use Flash, go into 3. If they negate the Flash or 3, you can just normal summon Turtle and continue your day since you haven't used 5's effect yet. We have other wind dragons in the deck. We have Armogram for starters. This card is searchable off Thunder level 5. He's a really good floater for the deck because he just banishes 2 dragons in the grave and special summons himself on the field. You can do that every single turn. He's a level 10 dragon. You already know what that means. Rank 10 plays, Dragon League plays. He has an effect to target a card on the field, permanently negate their effects. This helps you swing over cards with certain armors. It also allows you to equip cards that you destroy by battle, which is huge because if you don't want something like a Shadal to trigger in the graveyard, just equip it instead so it doesn't even touch the graveyard. This card is amazing, best support we've gotten from Ghosts from the Past. Then we have Tempest, Dragon Ruler of Storms. Pretty much any armed dragon deck runs this card. It's a consistency card, it's searchable off level 5. You can summon it like Armogram from the field, or I'm sorry, the hand or grave by banishing 2 dragon and or wind monsters. And that's a great thing to do every turn. It's a dragon monster, of course, so you can link it into Erratic Seals when you're done with it. You can go into rank 7 plays. You can also just use its effects to search for cards. If you banish it, you can search for any wind dragon in your deck. You can also send a dragon from, or I'm sorry, a wind monster from hand to grave to search for any dragon in your deck, which can trigger your armed dragon's effects, so you'll actually break even. This card is incredible. For the Kaiju portion of the deck, we play 3 copies of Godarla, we play 1 copy of Jizukuru, and then we play 1 copy of Kumungus. So all of these cards just tribute a monster on the field, special summon them onto your opponent's side of the field, so this is some of the best removal in the game. They have a Dragoon, they can't negate it, tribute it, special summon on their side of the field. And if they control a Kaiju, you get special summon a Kaiju from your hand. I know most people know what these do, but just in case if anybody new to the game is watching, I want to explain all these different cards. Other than that, they don't really have any effects, at least effects that are relevant enough for me to read the damn card. But the reason we're running all of these specific Kaijus over Gamma Seal and all those other ones is because Godarla has the most synergy with the deck. Being a wind monster, you can banish it to summon Tempest, you can pitch it with Tempest to search for a card. Also, if your opponent has the wind barrier statue on the field, while yes, we don't really care about the wind barrier statue since we're a wind deck, they might have something like an Appaloosa or some kind of other interruption, and because of the wind barrier statue, you wouldn't be able to get rid of said Appaloosa or whatever interruption if you didn't have a wind kaiju, because you can't just Gamma Seal it, right? Jizukuru and Kumungus, you can also just summon on your opponent's side of the field, but they're typically for us to summon on our side of the field, because Jizukuru is a level 10 to help us go into rank 10 OTKs, and then we also have Kumungus for a rank 7 play, but we don't really go into rank 7s as often as 10, so he's also just a really weak kaiju that's super easy to swing over. For the rest of the monster lineup, we play Cyframe Gear Gamma and the Driver. This is just a insane going second hand trap, negates and blows up any monster when it activates its effect, and it special summons both of them out. Now, obviously this is great for going second, but it's also good for our turn alone, because if we activate something from hand, which we have a ton of cards to activate from hand, and they try and hand trap it, or even just interrupt with like a Borreload Savage or something, you can just chain Gamma, negate them, and then summon these 2, and then get a free Synchro 8 on the field. So yeah, this is the only main deck hand trap that I'm running because it's just so damn impactful that I have to include it. And if we are forced to go first, this is not a bad card to draw, because it is basically a Called by the Grave for stuff like Artillery Catapult Turtle. And lastly, we have the Dino Wrestler Pankratops, because it's just the best going second card in the game. I said it. Special summon it for free like Cyber Dragon. You get to swing over something with its 26k booty, and then you can just tribute it as a quick effect to pop a card on the field. If that isn't broken, I don't know what is. For the Armed Dragon spells, we play 3 copies of Armed Dragon Flash, because Armed Dragon Flash is a starter, an extender, a hand trap baiter. It's really freaking good. Just being able to E-Telly one of your Armed Dragon level 3s onto the field for free. And then also we have 1 copy of Armed Dragon Lightning. This is a continuous spell, that allows you to recur your armed dragons from grave, so giving you a +1 every turn. Or you can boost the attack of an armed dragon, so if you boost level 10, it'll be boosted by 1,000, so you can crash into a dragoon, for example. And while it's on the field, if an armed dragon or multiple armed dragons would get destroyed by a card effect, you can choose to destroy this card instead, so it makes Thunder level 10 significantly harder to get over. For the Kaiju spells, we have 3 copies of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. This card's insane. It's Dark Hole on steroids. This allows you to blow up the entire field, non-targeting destruction, and then special summon 2 kaijus, one on each side of the field with different names, which is why we run such a weird kaiju ratio. And then those kaijus have to battle ever since they've been summoned. So that's something that doesn't really matter because we're breaking the board anyway, and we're probably going to Xyz off our kaiju. But I might as well tell you the restriction now rather than you learn the hard way, just in case you can't Xyz. And then also, after the turn it's been sent to the graveyard, you can banish it from the grave and then search for a kaiju and add it to your deck. So this card just not only helps break boards and bait out negates, but this card also just gives you a little bit of a grind game, which is absolutely insane. Something really funny to do is if they make you go first game 1 and you get Armed Dragon Thunder level 10, you have this card in hand. Pitch this card in hand with Armed Dragon Thunder level 10, and then next turn, banish this and search for a kaiju. We have some more board breaker spells. We have 2 copies of Lightning Storm and 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. These are just like back row hates, just being able to blow up the entire back row. If you're lucky, you can blow up all the monsters with Lightning Storm. I like the 2-1 ratio because Lightning Storm's a hard once per turn. If we get in the grind game, it really sucks drawing it, but you could argue you want to see it more going first. But I also don't want to draw 2 of them because freaking it's a hard once per turn. So I feel like the 2-1 ratio is just absolutely perfect. I'm really sorry to the budget players watching my videos, but I am running Pot of Prosperity once again. This card is absolutely insane. This card is really good. It allows you to just excavate the top cards of your deck and then pick one and then add it to your hand. That's ridiculous because you can just get a kaiju and then your opponent can't react to you summoning the kaiju, or you can go into your other board breaker cards and at least force out a negate. And it also just baits out the hand trap, so you can go into your Armed Dragon plays or bait them with a Gamma. It's really insane. And the reason this is better than Extrav, even though it halves your damage, you shouldn't be worried about OTKing the opponent if you can't even break the board in the first place. And when I played Extrav, I just kept banishing the wrong things in the extra deck because we do have quite a lot that we need in extra deck. And we also like want to pick the card that's going to help us. We don't want to draw 2 useless cards, like 2 more Armed Dragons or something. You want to be able to get the card that you absolutely need. Now, the only real drawback to this card is the fact that you can't draw when you use this card. Well, actually, even before you use this card. So make sure you don't accidentally mess up and use Thunder level 3's effect to draw before you use this card. You have to pick one or the other, and 9 times out of 10, the Pot of Prosperity is way more helpful. For the last card in the main deck, I'm running Gold Sark. This is Rhoda for Armed Dragons. You banish Tempest and search for any Wind Dragon monster. Pretty nice. Moving on to the extra deck, I have a couple of level 8 synchros that you can make if you resolve Gamma during your turn. So the first one is Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. We are going second deck, and if we activate Pot of Prosperity or something and we don't have anything we care about, if anything at all, on the field, we can just nuke the entire board of special summon monsters to deal 500 damage points each to our opponent. So that helps you push for OTKs. It helps you burn when you're in time. It also just helps break the board in general. However, if you do care about the stuff you have on board, instead of making him, you can go into Scrap Dragon, who can pop himself or a card on your field to pop another card on your opponent's side of the field. This is a great way to get rid of back row or some lingering monsters. Again, helps you push for OTKs and play through interruption, so I really like him. You can replace him with Draco Berserker of the Tenyi if you're not comfortable with Scrap Dragon. It's really up to preference. And then we have Cyframe Lord Omega. Obviously, you can rip a card from the hand, but the main reason I run him is because if Dogmatica Maximus activates and we have to send cards from the extra deck to grave, I send this to grave, I shuffle back their Shadal monster, and they're either forced to A, waste their Makaba negate, or B, waste the Shadal Schism and make window early so I can just kaiju it. We have quite a bit of Xyz monsters in our extra deck. For the rank 7s, I have 1 Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack. I would replace this probably with the Dragoons thing coming out in the OCG, but for now this is good enough. It makes tokens, pops cards, and is indestructible by card effects as long as you have a token on the field. Pretty handy for removal. You have number 11, Big Eye. You can seal your opponent's monster if they have something really useful or they can't be destroyed. You can just take it instead. It's also funny to take one of your opponent's XYZ monsters, attack with it, and then make a Zeus with their own monster. And Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon to burn your opponent out of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Whether they call time or you know they're going to call time soon, you go into this card, make them burn themselves for a while, or they just don't have a lot of life points and you can just like sit on this guy. Then we have our rank 10s. We have Gustav, which just burns our opponent for 2,000. If you're trying to OTK your opponent, this is a great card to help you do that. You have Sky Palace, which burns your opponent for 1k by popping one of their cards on the field. Great way to get rid of some back row. We have one Lieb. This is a rank 11 monster that you can overlay on top of a rank 10 that can stack up for Zeus material, or you can just use its effect where it can attack multiple monsters on the field with 4,000 attack. It can also detach a material to gain 2,000 attack, but it can be the only monster that attacks for that turn, which is totally fine considering how easy this thing OTKs your opponent. Of course, we play one Zeus. If you've been living under a rock, basically you can just summon this guy on top of an XYZ monster if you battled with an XYZ monster. And as a quick effect, not once per turn, not once per chain, do it as much as you want. Detach new material, send all the cards except for him to the grave. For the links, I play one copy of Link Spider. This is to get rid of the Lost World token because that shit can literally cripple us. We're playing one copy of the newly limited Striker Dragon. This is not for any kind of effect. We're literally just using it to send level 3 to the grave, because if we activate level 3 pitching 7 or 5 and it gets negated, you can just go into Striker Dragon after triggering your level 5 or 7. So that way you have level 3 plus your level 5 or 7 in the grave. So then you can go into your level 10 White or your Armogram or Tempest for a follow-up play. We play two copies of Hieratic Seal. This is one of the best follow-up plays you have, because after you're done attacking your opponent, if they survive, you just link two of your dragons into it. And then during your opponent's turn, you contribute it to bounce a card back to their hand. And then in the graveyard, it'll summon a dragon from deck to the field. So you typically go into one of your floaters, but it'll have 0 attack and 0 defense. So even if they swing over it, you could just special summon the floater back the next turn and it'll have all of its attack back. Then lastly, we have one copy of Nightmare Phoenix. Unfortunately, this is the only way to play through a There Can Be Only One. Really annoying degenerate floodgate, and you need a Kaiju on the field, an armed dragon, make this, discard a card. You're at a really bad position at that point, but at least you can play the game. So I'm going to show you guys the side deck, but just keep in mind the side deck is kind of tailored towards my own locals, so depending on what you have to play against, you might want to change the deck list a little bit for the side deck. But this will hopefully give you some ideas. So a huge problem with blind going second decks in general is your opponent will often make you go first game 2 if they lose game 1. So you want to smoke screen something to switch out the Kaiju engine, since Kaiju suck at going first. So I personally side out the Kaiju Slumbers for Artifact Sanctum. And then I take out the Kaijus for 2 Scythe and 3 Lancia. And Lancia and Scythe are floodgates. One prevents your opponent from banishing. One prevents your opponent from summoning from the extra deck. The Sanctums just special summon one of these two guys out. Now, Lancia you can use in the hand, obviously. It's a hand trap. But Scythe, you have to destroy it to special summon it if you don't do it through Sanctum. So something you can do is set this as a spell or trap, because you can do that with artifacts. And then make Thunder level 10, and during your opponent's draw phase or whatever, activate Thunder level 10, pop the Scythe, and then the Scythe will trigger and summon itself. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't gotten the chance to do it yet, if you send an Armed Dragon Thunder from hand to grave, I think you might be able to chain block to make it so your opponent can't Ghost Spell the Scythe. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't tested that, but I'm pretty sure that would work. Now here's a tip about siding though. Don't side all this if you know your opponent can't OTK you. If your opponent can't OTK you, just continue to side for just going second, right? Because your opponent's not going to kill you or do anything. You can break any board they make. However, that is not the only thing I have for going first. I have the Kawaki Myro Draco. This thing is insane for going first because you can just make it with Hieratic Seals. Hieratic Seals bounces whatever they normal summon. Then you special summon this with Seals. And then you can go into Kawaki Myro Draco, which prevents both players from summoning light and dark monsters. So if your opponent's playing Drytron or Dragon League or something, they're going to be in a really bad situation because they're not going to be able to special summon those types of monsters. So this is a really annoying floodgate. The catch is, of course, summoned off Seals. It's going to have 0 attack, 0 defense. but typically you can just bounce the first thing they normal summon, and then if their deck is dark or lights, they can't do anything else. And also you have to destroy it during the end phase unless you reveal a dragon in your hand. So that is the only real catch with this card. The rest of my side deck is a little bit more generic. I have 3 copies of Droll and Logbird. This is to prevent combo decks from going off like Drytron, or just, you know, control decks that just search a lot like Sky Striker. Really good hand trap for either going first or second, so if you don't know if you're going first or second, this is always a safe bet to side. And then I have the 3 evenly matched because it just shits on, you know, Sky Strikers, Eldritch, etc. And I really like having more like back row hate blowout cards because my deck is more for just breaking regular boards, not just back row deck. So this is a great thing to side for those. I am considering replacing them for Cosmic Cyclone or MST, so if I go first, I can still use that back row removal, but in testing, this has just been such a blowout card that I love having it in my side deck. That's going to be all for the deck profile. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, but don't go anywhere because I'm just going to show you guys some replays since I can't really do test hands with the going second deck. So enjoy the replays, make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe, it helps the channel a lot. Peace.